General, it's the humans, and they are furious. Part 1. The massive command bridge of the Krell Dominion flagship, Eternal Ascendancy, glowed with soft blue light from hundreds of display screens. Fleet General Tharok Vel stood at the center, like a living tower of muscle and armor plates. His 4 powerful arms rested on the railing, while his 6 eyes scanned the reports coming in from the border sector. Varaxis Prime shimmered below the ship, as a small dusty world rich with rare isotope crystals that everyone in the galaxy wanted. Tharok Vel was old for a Krell commander, and very proud. He had crushed 12 species in his long career, each one weaker and more foolish than the last. Now the latest annoyance came from the newest race to crawl out of their single planet, the humans. They had sent colony ships into the neutral zone claimed by the Dominion, and started mining without permission. Tharok Vel found the whole thing almost amusing. A young officer named Vrix approached with careful steps. His skin still had the pale sheen of someone fresh from the academy. "Sir, the human mining operation has grown to 7 surface stations and 2 orbital platforms. They refuse to answer our hails." Vrix kept his voice low because he knew how the general hated interruptions. Tharok Vel turned one set of eyes toward the officer, while the others stayed on the main screen. "Humans, Class 3 nuisance species," he said in a deep, rumbling voice. "They only reached the stars a few centuries ago. Their ships are slow, their weapons are crude, they argue among themselves like children fighting over scraps. I see no threat here." Vrix hesitated, then spoke again. "Sir, our probes show they have increased security around the mines. Automated turrets, sensor nets, and small fighter craft patrol the area. They also sent a message demanding we leave their claim alone." Tharok Vel let out a sharp laugh that echoed across the bridge. The sound made several crew members flinch. "Claim humans do not claim anything until we allow it. Send 1 battlecruiser group, 6 heavy cruisers should be enough. Escort the miners out. If they resist, destroy their habitats. Let this serve as a lesson to every young race watching from the shadows." The bridge crew moved quickly. Orders flashed across screens. Officers barked commands into comlinks. Tharok Vel returned to studying the tactical map. He pictured the small human outposts burning bright for a moment, then going dark. It would be over in hours, maybe less. He had seen it many times before. Hours passed. The battlecruiser group jumped into the Varaxis system and approached the mining zone. Tharok Vel watched the live feed from his command chair. The lead cruiser, Victory's Edge, transmitted its demand in clear trade language. "Surrender your operation and depart the zone or face destruction. This is your only warning." Silence followed for several long minutes. Then a single reply came through, audio only. No video, no fancy graphics. Just a calm, flat human voice. "General, it's the humans, and we are furious." Tharok Vel felt a flicker of surprise, but brushed it aside. Fury. He had heard that word from dozens of species right before they begged for mercy. He leaned forward slightly. "Increase magnification. Show me their defenses." The main screen zoomed in. Human mining stations looked simple, sturdy domes, connected by tunnels. Small ships moved between them like busy insects. Automated drones patrolled in wide circles. Nothing impressive, nothing that could challenge Krell technology. Tharok Vel waved a hand forward. "Proceed with the escort." The 6 cruisers advanced in perfect formation. Their shields glowed bright against the black of space. Point defense lasers tracked the tiny human drones. Victory's Edge fired a warning shot, a thin beam that vaporized one drone in a flash of light. The message was clear: move or die. Instead of scattering, the human ships turned toward the Krell formation. They did not flee. They accelerated straight at the cruisers. Small mining vessels with reinforced hulls and jury-rigged engines pushed to dangerous speeds. Tharok Vel frowned. "What are they doing?" Vrix checked his console. "Sir, they are on collision courses. Estimated impact in 40 seconds. They carry no torpedoes, no missiles, just mass and velocity. Tharok Vel felt the first real twinge of unease. Order point defense to full auto. Shred them before they reach us. Lasers flared across the void. Hundreds of beams stabbed at the incoming human ships. Most hits landed true. Chunks of metal spun away in silent explosions. Yet a few vessels kept coming, twisting, dodging, using every trick a desperate pilot could manage. One mining hauler slipped through the fire. It slammed into the flank of the second cruiser in line. The impact was catastrophic. The Krell ship buckled inward, then tore open along its length. Atmosphere and crew vented into space in a glittering cloud. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but too late. Secondary explosions rippled through the hull. The cruiser listed badly, then went dark. Tharok Vel stared at the screen in disbelief. One primitive freighter had crippled a heavy cruiser designed to fight entire fleets. He slammed a fist against the railing. Report status. Vrick's voice shook. Sir Victory's Edge reports moderate damage, but operational. The others are engaging the remaining human craft. They are using swarm tactics, drones and small ships everywhere. Our shields are holding, but taking hits from unexpected angles. Tharok Vel growled. They fight like insects, annoying, persistent, and stupid. Order the cruisers to form a tight sphere and burn everything inside it. No mercy. The Krell ships pulled into a defensive ball. Their combined firepower lit the space around Varax's Prime like a new sun. Human drones vanished by the dozens. Mining ships exploded one after another. Yet the humans did not stop. More vessels rose from the surface. Some like construction rigs, all moved with purpose. A second wave came in faster this time. They used the debris from the first clash as cover, darting between spinning wreckage. Tharok Vel watched a small human corvette weave through laser fire. It launched a single projectile, not a missile, but a solid slug, accelerated to terrible speed. The slug punched straight through the shields of another cruiser, and buried itself deep in the engineering section. Moments later, that cruiser bloomed with internal fire and broke apart. Alarms screamed across the bridge. Tharok Vel felt his heart pound harder. This was not the quick lesson he had planned. This was something else. Vrix turned from his station. Sir, intercepted chatter from the human side. They are naming our ships. They are listing our commanders. They know who gave the first order. They say, this is personal. Tharok Vel showed his teeth in a snarl. Personal. What does that matter in war? War is about power, about strength, about who stands at the top. The weak fall, the strong rule. That is the natural order. Yet the screen told a different story. Another cruiser reported critical damage. Its engines died, and it drifted helpless as human boarding pods clamped onto its hull. Tharok Vel could imagine the chaos inside. Krell warriors, proud and disciplined, facing humans who fought with raw hate. A new message arrived. Wideband broadcast across every Dominion frequency. General, you took our people. Now we take yours. Tharok Vel felt cold spread through his limbs. He had underestimated them. He had laughed at their anger. Now that anger stared back at him through every tactical display, every loss, every burning ship, every name they whispered in the dark. He straightened his posture and spoke with forced calm. Recall the remaining cruisers. Pull back to the edge of the system. We will regroup and return with greater force. This ends when I say it ends. The bridge crew obeyed without question. Ships turned away from the fight, trailing damage and shame. Tharok Vel watched the human mining stations still standing, still defiant. He knew this was only the beginning. Something had awakened out there in the quiet frontier. Something that did not fear the Dominion. Something that remembered every wrong and planned to repay it all. He turned away from the screen and walked toward his private quarters. The weight of command felt heavier than ever. For the first time in many cycles, Fleet General Tharok Vel wondered if the natural order might bend. General, it's the humans and they are furious. The bridge of the eternal ascendancy felt colder than before. Fleet General Tharok Vel paced slowly between the glowing consoles, his forearms folded tight against his armored chest. The tactical display still showed the wreckage drifting around Veraxis Prime. 5 Krell heavy cruisers reduced to twisted metal and silent tombs. 1 battle group gone in less than an hour to a handful of mining ships and angry workers. He stopped in front of the main screen and stared at the human stations, still standing defiant under the pale light of the local star. Reports kept coming in from the surviving ships. Victory's Edge limped at the edge of the system, with half its engines dead and most of its weapons offline. The captain sent a tight beam message full of excuses about unexpected resistance and superior numbers. Tharok Vel ignored the excuses. He wanted facts, numbers, losses, names. Vrick stood nearby holding a datapad. His hands shook just a little. Sir, the final tally is confirmed. 1,423 Krell personnel lost. Most were from the engineering decks and gunnery stations. The humans boarded 2 crippled cruisers. They did not take prisoners. They executed officers by name. They matched our command logs to their casualty lists. Tharok Vel turned sharply. What do you mean by name? Vrick swallowed hard. They had a list, sir. Every officer who gave an order during the initial approach. Every name broadcast on open channels. They called it justice. The boarding teams carried recordings of the attacks. They played them while they worked. One survivor from the 3rd cruiser said the humans spoke calmly. They said, "This is for the families you burned." Tharok Vel felt something twist inside him. Not fear, not yet. Anger mixed with confusion. He had expected screams, panic, begging. Instead, the humans fought with cold purpose. They turned tools into weapons. They turned grief into strategy. He waved a hand. The intercepted transmissions. I want to hear their voices. The audio feed crackled to life. Human voices overlapped in calm anger. No shouting, no wild threats, just steady words. We lost 37 on Habitat Dome 7. Their names are recorded. Here are the faces of the ones who did it. Target confirmed. Moving to next objective. Another voice cut in. Railgun slug away. Impact in 8 seconds. Good hunting. Tharok Vel listened to the quiet efficiency and felt his skin crawl. These were not warriors. These were miners, builders, traders, people who fixed machines and dug holes for a living. Yet they adapted faster than any species he had ever faced. They learned Krell shield frequencies in minutes. They found weak points in armor meant to withstand plasma storms. They used their own dead as motivation instead of mourning. A new alert flashed across the screen. Incoming transmission from the human flagship. It was the same battered colony hauler that had rammed the lead cruiser. Now it hung in orbit over Veraxis Prime, patched with fresh plating and bristling with salvaged Krell weapons. Tharok Vel ordered the channel opened. The screen filled with a human face, a woman with short dark hair and a fresh scar across one cheek. Her eyes looked tired, but hard. She spoke without introduction. You sent 6 ships to teach us a lesson. We sent them back in pieces. You took our homes, our workers, our children. Now we start collecting what you owe. This is not war, this is payment. The list is long. We have time. Tharok Vel stepped closer to the screen. Who are you? She smiled without warmth. Captain Mara Voss, former shift supervisor on Dome 7. You killed my brother and my niece. I keep their pictures on the bridge, so I never forget why I fly. Every human out here has a reason like mine. We do not need orders. We need names. And we have yours, General Tharok Vel. You gave the command. You will answer for it. The transmission cut off. Tharok Vel stood silent for a long moment. Bridge crew watched him without speaking. He finally turned to Vrix. Prepare a full report for High Command. Include every detail, every loss, every human transmission. Send it Priority 1. I want the Dominion to understand what we face. Vrix nodded and moved to his station. Tharok Vel walked to the observation deck behind the bridge. The armored glass showed the stars and the distant glow of Varaxis Prime. He thought about the humans again. Class 3 nuisance. They were supposed to break easily. Instead, they bent the rules of war. They refused to play the game of fleets and formations. They fought like a storm that remembered every tree it broke. Hours later, the reply from High Command arrived. Admiral K. Sarvor would take personal command. A full expeditionary fleet, 200 capital ships, support vessels, troop transports. The order was simple. Pacify the human frontier. Capture their homeworld for study. Show them the true power of the Dominion. Tharok Vel was ordered to stand down. Report to Krell Prime for review. He read the message twice, then deleted it from his personal log. He would go home, but not in shame. Not yet. He still had one card to play. He opened a secure channel to the remaining ships in the sector. All vessels, this is Fleet General Tharok Vel. We regroup at waypoint Delta 9. We will observe the humans. We will learn their patterns. We will strike when they are weak. The captains acknowledged one by one. Their voices carried strain, but also obedience. Tharok Vel closed the channel and looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were repairing their ships, counting their dead, adding names to lists. He wondered how long it would take before they came for him personally. On the human side, the mood was different, but no less focused. Captain Mara Voss stood on the bridge of the converted hauler, Retribution. The name had been painted on the hull in red letters, still wet from the last repair. Ammunition welding, new armor plates, checking railgun coils. Everyone moved with purpose. No one joked. No one rested long. A young technician approached her. "Sir, we salvaged 3 Krell shield generators. They are bigger than anything we have, but we can mount them. The power draw will be heavy, but it might save us next time." Mara nodded. "Good work fast. We do not have weeks, we have days. The Dominion will send more, they always do." She turned to the main display. It showed a map of the frontier, human colonies marked in blue, Krell outposts in red. Lines connected them, showing supply routes, patrol paths. She touched one dot, Varaxis Prime, the place where it started. She traced her finger to another dot, farther out. New Hope Colony. Home to her family, before the first attack. She whispered names under her breath, like a prayer. The comm officer called out, "Incoming wideband from the surface miners, sir. They say they found Krell escape pods. 3 officers survived the boarding. They are asking what to do with them." Mara looked at the list on her console. Names, ranks, ships. They matched the ones who gave orders. She spoke without hesitation. "Bring them to the Retribution alive. We have questions. They have answers." The crew did not argue. They understood. This was not about cruelty. This was about balance. Every life taken deserved a moment of truth. Every family broken deserved to see justice done. As the hours passed, more human ships arrived. Small, fast craft from nearby systems. Freighters pulled from civilian routes. Yachts from rich colonies. All carried the same fire in their crews. They shared data. They shared stories. They shared rage. It spread like fire through dry grass. No central command. No grand speeches. Just a growing understanding that the Dominion had crossed a line that could not be ignored. Mara stood alone for a moment, looking out at the stars. She thought about her brother, laughing at family dinners. Her niece, drawing pictures of spaceships. Both gone, because one arrogant general thought humans were weak. She clenched her fist and made a promise to herself. The list would grow shorter. Every name crossed off brought a little peace. But peace would not come until the last name vanished. Far away, Tharok Vel prepared to leave the sector. He boarded a shuttle for the long jump to Krell Prime. He carried the weight of failure and the first real doubt of his long career. The humans had not broken. They had sharpened themselves into something new, something dangerous, something furious. The stars watched in silence as two forces moved toward collision, one built on pride and order, the other forged in loss and memory. Neither would back down. Word count 1,350. General, it's the humans, and they are furious. The Grand War Council chamber on Krell Prime stretched wide and high like a cathedral built for conquest. Golden pillars rose to a domed ceiling, painted with scenes of past victories. Ancient fleets crushing lesser races under glowing weapons. Tharokvel walked down the long central aisle, flanked by silent guards. His once proud armor now carried the dull marks of hurried repairs. He kept his forearms straight at his sides, and his 6 eyes fixed forward. No one spoke as he approached the raised platform where the High Command sat. Admiral Kesar Vor occupied the center seat, tallest and broadest among the elders. His scales shone with fresh oil, and his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Fleet General Tharokvel, you stand accused of gross underestimation, resulting in the loss of a battle group and severe damage to Dominion prestige. Explain yourself, without excuses. Tharokvel stopped at the marked spot on the floor, bowed his head once, then spoke in a steady tone. The humans were classified as Class 3. They possessed no advanced warships, no exotic weapons, no unified military doctrine. I deployed standard escort tactics, 6 heavy cruisers against mining outposts. The resistance was unexpected in scale and method. They used industrial vessels as kinetic weapons. They adapted our shield weaknesses in real time. They boarded crippled ships and executed named officers. They fought with personal vengeance, not strategic gain. A murmur ran through the council chamber. One analyst officer stood and projected a hologram of the battle. Sensor data showed human ships darting through debris fields, ramming at high fractions of light speed, turning freighters into spears. The admiral watched the replay without expression. Then he turned back to Tharokvel. You claim primitives did this with mining tools? Yes, sir, Tharokvel answered. They did not invent new technology. They repurposed what they already had. Built for asteroid deflection became ship killers. Fusion torches meant for hull repair became boarding cutters. Cargo haulers gained ablative plating from salvaged scrap. They turned everyday labor into warfare. Their anger gave them focus we have not seen in other species. The grizzled intelligence chief named Zorak 10 rose next. He had served through 3 major wars, and his scars told the story. He activated another display. This time wreckage analysis appeared. Twisted Krell hull plates with precise cuts. Human DNA traces on command decks where officers died by blade or strangulation. Zorak 10 spoke slowly. These are not soldiers in the traditional sense. These are workers who decided to become weapons, and they are very, very good at their new job. Their learning curve is vertical. They observe, fight, adapt, repeat, faster than any race we have faced. Kesar Vor leaned forward. We cannot allow one frontier incident to shake the Dominion. The expeditionary fleet assembles now. Capital ships, 30 troop carriers, support elements. We will end this quickly. We will take their homeworld, Terra. We will study their biology, their psychology, their rage. We will dissect what makes them dangerous and remove it. The humans will learn their place. Tharokvel felt a chill. He wanted to warn them, but the words stuck. He had seen the humans up close. He had heard their calm voices, listing names. He knew this would not end with simple conquest. Yet he stayed silent. The council dismissed him with orders to observe from the flagship, as an advisor stripped of command. He left the chamber, head low. Far across the stars, on Earth and its scattered colonies, the fury took shape, without parades or speeches. Governments issued quiet statements, then fell silent. Official channels went dark, while civilian networks lit up. Factory workers, shipyard crews, Miners, pilots, traders, all received the same simple messages. The Dominion heard our own. We finished this. No central leader emerged. Small groups coordinated through encrypted links, shared data pools, and private comms. In the orbital shipyards above Mars, old warships dragged from museums received fresh power cores. New armor plates welded on by teams working around the clock. Volunteer pilots filled cockpits, some with decades of experience, some barely old enough to vote. They trained in simulators, running attack patterns against captured Krell schematics. Every simulation ended the same way. Human ships closed fast, used speed and numbers, overwhelmed point defenses, boarded and cleared decks, room by room. On Luna, a retired fleet admiral named Elena Reyes watched the preparations from her small office. She had fought in the early expansion wars, seen humanity push outward. She knew what happened when a species felt truly cornered. She sent one message to every colony hub. Remember who we are. We build, we endure, we remember. Do not fight like them. Fight like us. The message spread. Colonies responded with status updates, ship counts, weapon loads, volunteer numbers. One mining guild, from the asteroid belt, reported 30 retrofitted haulers, ready for combat. Another colony on Titan sent a fleet of ice haulers, converted to missile boats, carrying nuclear payloads, shaped from reactor cores. Every group added the same line. The list grows. We cross names one by one. Captain Mara Voss, aboard the Retribution, received the updates on her bridge. The ship now carried a patchwork fleet of 50 vessels, trailing behind like loyal hounds. She studied the incoming data. The Dominion fleet would arrive soon. Numbers favored them heavily, yet she felt no fear, only certainty. She turned to her crew. We do not need to win a war. We need to make the cost unbearable. Every ship they lose, every officer we name, every family they leave grieving, adds to the price. They will pay until they stop. A sensor officer called out, incoming jump signatures, multiple large formations, outer system edge, estimated arrival in 12 hours. They brought the full armada, sir. Mara nodded. Good. Let them come. We have been waiting. She opened a ship-wide channel. This is Captain Voss. The enemy approaches. We do not run. We do not hide. We meet them head-on. Not for territory, not for glory, for the people they took, for the homes they burned, for every name on the list. Fight smart, fight hard, fight furious. Cheers answered her. Not wild screams, but steady, determined roars. The crew returned to stations with renewed focus. Engineers checked reactors, gunners loaded rails, pilots ran final diagnostics. Across the human frontier, the same scene repeated. Thousands of ships, large and small, moved into position. They hid in comet clouds, asteroid fields, and gas giant rings. They waited, silent, patient, ready. Tharok Vel stood on the observation deck of Kesar Vor's flagship, the Indomitable. He watched the tactical display fill with red icons. 200 capital ships arrayed in perfect formation. Support vessels screened the flanks. Waited at the rear, the Admiral planned a textbook advance, sweep the outer defenses, bombard key colonies, land forces on Terra, show overwhelming power, force surrender. Tharok Vel spoke quietly to the Admiral. Sir, I recommend caution. The humans do not fight textbook battles. Kesar Vor dismissed him with a wave. They are primitives. They will break under real force. Watch and learn how a true empire handles rebellion. Tharok Vel said nothing more. He looked out at the approaching Sol system. Somewhere in that darkness, the humans waited. They had no grand formations, no shining armor, yet they had something stronger. Memory loss turned to purpose. Grief turned to steel. Every human ship carried ghosts. Every pilot carried a name. Every shot carried payback. The armada crossed the heliopause boundary. The first probes entered the Oort cloud. Nothing happened. No alarms, no sudden attacks, just silence. Too much silence. Then the first sensor ghost appeared, a faint signature, vanishing. Before, lock. A second ghost. A third. The Admiral frowned. Increase scan intensity. Find them. The fleet pushed deeper. Probes died one by one, not to weapons but to clever traps, simple mines disguised as debris clouds, EMP bursts from hidden drones, small things meant to blind, not kill. Yet blindness cost time the humans used. Tharok Vel watched the display with growing dread. He knew what came next. The humans had not run, they had prepared. They had turned the entire outer system into a killing ground, and now the furious waited for the proud to step inside. Word count, 1,350. General, it's the humans, and they are furious. The Indomitable led the Dominion Armada deep into the Sol system. 200 capital ships moved in perfect order like a school of massive predators. Their shields overlapped in a blowing web. Point defense batteries tracked every shadow. The Admiral Kesar Vor stood on the bridge with arms crossed behind his back. He expected fear from the humans. He expected surrender broadcasts. He expected empty space ahead. Instead, he found silence. A silence that pressed against the hull like waiting breath. The first contact came without warning. A sensor ghost flickered in the Oort cloud, then vanished. Probes died in sequence, not to explosions, but to clever bursts of static that blinded guidance systems. Small drones, no bigger than escape pods, drifted among the comets. They carried no weapons, only jammers and false signatures. The fleet pushed forward anyway. Admiral Kesar Vor ordered full active scans. Burn through the interference. Show me the primitives. Then the real attack began. Human ships appeared from nowhere, thousands of them. Small, fast, ugly craft, pulled from every corner of human space. They did not form neat lines. They scattered like seeds in wind. They vanished into comet tails, reappeared from asteroid shadows, struck and fled before return fire could lock. The first wave targeted the outer screening ships. Light cruisers buckled under sudden railgun fire. Slugs accelerated to fractions of light speed, punched through armor like needles through cloth. Kesar Vor snarled. Increase formation density. Concentrate fire on the densest clusters. Wipe them out. The Armada tightened its sphere. Capital ships overlapped shields, creating a moving fortress. Human attackers adapted instantly. They switched to harassment tactics. Small groups darted in, launched single heavy projectiles, then broke away. Debris fields grew thicker with every pass. Human pilots used the wreckage as cover. They flew paths no sane navigator would plot, twisting through spinning hull fragments at speeds that stressed inertial dampers to braking. A boarding pod clamped onto a Dominion destroyer. The pod carried no troops, only automated cutters and shaped charges. It sliced open the hull, vented atmosphere, then self-destructed, taking the engineering section with it. The destroyer went dark, drifting helpless. Another pod struck a troop transport. Human figures in patched vac suits poured inside. They moved deck by deck, clearing rooms with brutal efficiency. They did not loot. They searched for specific targets, officers whose names appeared on long lists. They found them, executed them, recorded the moment, and moved on. Tharok Vel watched from his observer station on the Indomitable. He recognized the pattern. This was no blind rage. This was vengeance with paperwork. Every kill matched a prior loss. Every transmission carried updates, crossed another name. Justice delivered. The Admiral turned to him. Tharok Vel answered quietly. I warned you, sir. They do not wage war. They settle debts. Kesar Vor dismissed the comment with a wave. Open a channel to their flagship. I will end this farce myself. The main screen lit up. Captain Mara Voss appeared. Her face showed new scars. Her eyes held no give. Admiral, your fleet bleeds. We have barely started. Recall your ships. Leave our space, you still have time to save what remains. The Admiral laughed deep and harsh. You think a handful of rabble can dictate terms to the Dominion? We will burn your worlds. We will chain your people. We will erase your name from the stars. Mara tilted her head. You wanted obedience? You got fury. This ends when every name is crossed off. She cut the link. The battle escalated. Human ships pressed closer. They used suicide runs when needed. A bulk hauler packed with reactor cores accelerated straight at a battle carrier. It detonated on contact, ripping a hole wide enough for 3 cruisers to pass. Through the carrier listed, then exploded in a chain reaction that took nearby escorts with it. Cheers echoed across human comms. Not wild joy, but grim satisfaction. Another debt paid. Caesar War ordered the fleet to advance toward the inner system. They would bypass the outer defenses, reach Mars and Earth, bombard from orbit, force capitulation. Yet every kilometer cost more. The humans mined the approaches with spent fuel tanks turned into nuclear-shaped charges. They seeded the path with automated railguns hidden in ice chunks. They turned the solar system itself into a weapon. A heavy cruiser reported internal sabotage. Human boarders had slipped aboard during the chaos. They moved through maintenance tunnels, found the bridge, executed the command staff, then sabotaged the reactors. The ship turned on its own side, firing into the formation before self-destructing. The Admiral watched his perfect order fracture piece by piece. Tharok Vel spoke again. Sir, we lose cohesion. Not need to destroy us all. They need only make every victory too expensive. You still command enough force to withdraw with honor. Caesar Vor rounded on him. Honor? You speak of honor after your failure? No. We press on. We crush them here and now. The Armada reached the asteroid belt. Human resistance thickened. Corvettes darted between rocks, launched swarms of drones that carried EMP pulses. Shield failures spread like disease. Capital ships drifted blind, while smaller human craft closed for the kill. Boarding teams grew bolder. They targeted flag vessels. They hunted admirals and generals. They carried lists updated in real time. One team breached the Indomitable itself. They fought through corridors, sealed blast doors, used cutting torches to bypass locks. They reached the secondary bridge, found junior officers hiding. The humans did not massacre the crew. They asked one question: where is Caesar Vor? The answers came fast under threat. The Admiral had moved to the primary bridge. Withdrew, leaving warnings scrawled on bulkheads. Your turn is coming. Caesar Vor felt the first real fear. He ordered all remaining ships to form a final defensive globe around the Indomitable. He would make his stand here. He would show the galaxy that no upstart race could defy the Dominion. The humans answered with everything they had. Thousands of craft closed from every vector. They ignored losses. They rammed when weapons failed. They boarded when hulls touched. They fought with a fury that seemed endless. Names flashed across their comms. Target 47 located. Justice delivered. Target 112 confirmed. Another crossed off. Admiral Caesar Vor opened the channel one last time. Humans, you have proven your point. Stand down. We will negotiate terms. Mara Voss appeared again. Her voice stayed calm. No negotiations, no terms. You started this with an insult. You continued with an attack. You will end it when we say, the debt is not yet paid. The screen went dark. Indomitable shuddered under fresh impacts. Shields collapsed in sections. Human boarders poured in. They moved with terrible purpose. They found the Admiral on the bridge. He stood tall, weapons raised. His guards fell one by one. The humans reached him. They did not rush. They took their time. They read the charges. They named the dead. They carried out sentence with precision. Tharok Vel watched from his station. He saw the end. He did not fight when they came for him. He stood quiet. He accepted the moment. He knew the list included his name. He knew the debt demanded payment. The battle faded. The Dominion Armada broke. Fewer than 1 in 10 ships survived. They limped away, trailing fire and silence. The humans did not pursue. They watched the retreat. They catalogued the wrecks. They updated the lists. Captain Mara Voss stood on her bridge, looking at the stars. The Retribution bore fresh scars but still flew. Her crew worked quietly, repairing damage, counting survivors. Message to every human ship: the debt is paid, for now. Cross our borders again, and fury becomes doctrine. The transmission ended. Cheers rose soft and steady across the fleet. Not triumph, but relief. The names had grown shorter. The families had some closure. The frontiers stood quiet once more. Far away, on crippled Dominion ships, survivors whispered of the humans, not as primitives, not as nuisances, but as something new, something that remembered every slight, something that repaid in exact measure, something furious. The stars held their silence. They had seen empires rise and fall. They had seen pride shatter against will. Now they watched a new lesson unfold, one written in fire and memory, one that would echo through the galaxy for generations. Word count 1,350. General, it's the humans, and they are furious. The battered remnants of the Dominion Armada limped back toward Krell space. Fewer than 20 capital ships survived out of the 200 that had crossed into Sol system. Many trailed plasma and debris like blood in water. Escape pods drifted among the wreckage, carrying crews too stunned to speak. The Indomitable floated dark and silent, its once proud hull torn open in dozens of places. The bridge lay exposed to vacuum. The Admiral Kesar Vor no longer commanded anything. His body rested in a cold corner of the ruined command deck, marked only by the list pinned to his chest. A single line crossed through his name. Farok Vel survived. He sat in chains aboard a surviving cruiser, the last ascendant. His 4 arms bound with heavy restraints. His 6 eyes stared at the deck plating without focus. The surviving officers avoided looking at him. They whispered when they thought he could not hear. The general failed. The humans broke us. The fury was real. The journey home took weeks, longer than the invasion itself. Every jump carried shame. Every system they passed broadcast the same wideband message from human space. The debt is paid. Cross our borders again, and fury becomes doctrine. The words repeated on every channel, in every language the Dominion used. No threats followed. No demands for tribute. Just that simple warning etched into the minds of every listener. On Krell Prime, the high command chamber felt smaller than before. The golden pillars seemed dull. The painted ceiling showed victories that now looked distant and fragile. The remaining admirals and counselors gathered in silence. They reviewed sensor logs, wreckage scans, survivor testimonies. Every piece of evidence told the same story. The humans had not conquered. They had punished. They had tallied losses, matched them with precision, and stopped when the scales balanced. Zorak 10, the intelligence chief, stood before the council once more. Triumph, only grim fact. The humans lost 317 vessels. Most were civilian conversions. They lost 11,000 personnel. Most were volunteers, not trained soldiers. Yet they inflicted losses 20 times greater. They did not seek territory. They sought justice. They catalogued our officers. They hunted them by name. They executed with evidence presented. They left messages on bulkheads. For every child burned. For every dome shattered. For every family broken. The cost was exact. One elder asked the question everyone feared. What now? Zorak 10 paused. The Dominion has not faced this before. Other species fight for power, for resources, for survival. The humans fought for memory. They remember slights longer than we remember conquests. They turn grief into doctrine. They make vengeance a science. If we cross their frontier again, they will not stop at repayment. They will continue until nothing remains of us. The council sat in heavy quiet. No one argued. No one boasted of revenge. The empire that had crushed worlds now felt small. The apex predator tasted fear for the first time in recorded history. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. Species that once bowed to Krell now watched with new eyes. Traders rerouted convoys away from Dominion space. Diplomats spoke carefully when mentioning humans. Scholars added new chapters to histories. One line repeated often: never provoke a species that counts its dead. On Earth, the mood stayed quiet. No grand parades, no victory speeches. People returned to work. They repaired habitats. They rebuilt domes. They mourned in private. Families gathered around hollow pictures. They told stories of the lost. They lit small candles in windows. Captain Maravas stood on the bridge of the Retribution. The ship rested in high orbit over Mars. Fresh plating covered old scars. The crew worked without rush. They knew the fight had ended for now. Mara looked at the main display. It showed the Sol system calm once more. No red icons. Incoming fleets. Just stars and silence. She opened her personal log and spoke softly. The list is complete. Every name crossed. Every debt settled. We did not want this war. We did not seek it. But when it came, we answered. We answered with everything we had. We answered as humans. She closed the log and turned to her first officer. Status on the fleet. Repairs continue, sir. Volunteer ships return home. Some stay on patrol just in case. The frontier stays watched. Mara nodded. Good. We watch, we remember, we prepare. She walked to the observation window. The blue curve of Earth filled the view. Lights twinkled on the night side. Cities, factories, homes. People lived on, unaware of how close the darkness had come. She thought about her brother and niece. Their faces stayed clear in her mind. She no longer felt only rage. Now she felt something steadier. Something like resolve. A message arrived from the surface. A miner from Veraxis Prime, the place where it all began. Recording. No words. Just a view of the rebuilt mining station. New domes rose beside old craters. Fresh tunnels stretched into the rock. At the center stood a tall marker carved from local stone. Names covered every side. Thousands of them. Human names. Krell names. All etched deep. All equal in death. The miner panned the camera to the sky. A single sentence painted on the largest dome in bright letters. They thought anger made us weak. They learned it made us unstoppable. Mara watched the recording twice. She felt no smile, no tears, just quiet understanding. She turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there the galaxy had changed. The old order bent. The new reality settled in. Humans were no longer a nuisance. They were a force. They were remembered. Tharok Vel sat in his cell on Krell Prime. The walls were smooth and cold. He had no visitors. No trials awaited him. The Dominion preferred silence to spectacle. He stared at the small viewport. A single star shone there. He wondered if the humans looked at the same star. He wondered if they still kept lists. He knew the answer. They always would. Years passed. The frontiers stayed quiet. No Krell ships crossed the line. No human fleets invaded Dominion space. Trade resumed slowly, carefully. Diplomats met on neutral worlds. They spoke of borders, of respect, of memory. No one mentioned fury. No one needed to. The word hung between them like smoke. On the small colony world far from Sol, a young human child asked her father about the old war. The father paused, then answered. They came to take what was ours. They thought we would break. We did not. We got angry. We stayed angry. We made them remember us. The child looked up at the stars. Do we still get angry? The father smiled softly. Only when we need to. And when we do, the galaxy listens. The story spread through human space, not as legend, not as boast, as truth. A simple truth told around campfires, in shipyards, in quiet homes. When someone asks why humans fight the way they do, the same. Because we remember. Because we care. Because when you hurt our own, we become something else. Something focused. Something unstoppable. The title echoed in the void one last time. General, it's the humans, and they are furious. The words carried warning. The words carried memory. The words carried the promise that some debts never fade, some anger never cools, some species learn the hard way that fury is not weakness, it is power, it is will, it is humanity at its clearest. The stars watched. They always watched. They saw empires rise. They saw them fall. They saw a new name written among them, a name spoken with caution, a name spoken with respect, the humans. And the silence that followed held no fear, only understanding. Word count 1,350.